So
Lord,
sorry I had to go through
it's
all that.
okay. We finally have you guys. Good
If
grief,
they're left.
Good grief, Charlie Brown. Okay. My goodness. Well, to start again. Hi,
Hello.
everyone.
Hi, everyone.
I'm so. Oh, Susan. Christine just texted Suzanne Summers died.
Aw.
That's sad. I have a friend. We have a friend who lovingly call. Normally, that's his title. He is Dr. Death. But my friend texts me whenever someone dies, and really mad at her. Sometimes, like she didn't worry, and I said, "Excuse me, where's my news feed at, lady?" The nerve of some people. Hi, Facebook and YouTube. Yeah, my computer's fun and different. Have not had that before, but it wouldn't. So hang on. And then I realized this as well. There we go. Better. Now we're facing the right way. This is what as you say, as my dad will tell you, he doesn't do any of the technological things.
None.
So when I say to him, "Is everything?" He goes, "I think so." He was actually trying to plug a micro thing into the computer. It's fine. It's all fine. But yes, we're here. Did the wonderful biography of Louise Brooks by Barry Paris make the list? It's literally 100. It's actually more than 100 because they included some ties and things like that. So I can't tell you the whole list.
I agree with you on.
Yeah.
And I don't remember seeing it, but the word for it.
But don't take my word for it. Trouble. You're a troublemaker.
There are, of course, so many more books that could be included. They cast a pretty wide net. They sent out a list of almost 1,000 titles, I think.
Yeah.
Number one is Hitchcock Truffaut,
which makes sense.
Which I understand completely.
Yes.
Kent Jones made the entire feature documentary about the impact and the influence of that book.
Yeah.
Which came out teenager maybe.
Yeah.
Or a very young man, and worked its magic spell on me. It was fascinating to have such a lengthy conversation with a single film and a filmmaker who was more than willing to go deep.
Yeah.
Go into detail about specific scenes, specific shots.
Yeah.
And
well, that is part of what's kind of crazy about movies that become that level of famous. The fact that certain scenes especially can be discussed almost to death, the detail of them. And I do wonder at times if that's useful or not. Sometimes I think it might be overkill. And I get it. I get why things. But as I say, I just worry that sometimes that takes away from the whole movie,
Yeah.
That's my only concern personally,
mm-hmm.
Is that it would do that. But everybody's different. It's sort of like, behind the scenes stuff. I like learning, but sometimes you also just want to stay what it is.
Yes. I mean, the magician revealing his tricks.
I don't really want that. I would like to just be swept away in it. That's preferable to me, at least. Again, everybody's different and everyone's allowed to have, their own sort of preference.
Ben mentioned that's very on the list. If you don't know that book, William Goldman is the screenwriter of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and other great films. And he wrote this book in which he said famously, and he's quoted all the time, nobody knows anything.
Yeah.
In the movie business.
Yeah. Shannon's saying it might be easier for viewers to just Google the list. Yeah, I'd say it's over 100 books. We can't really go through all of them. Though my dad is going to write a piece. I asked him to do this. I told him that I wanted him to write a piece about his favorite film books, because obviously you do your lists and I love them. But I do think it's also really important to sort of discuss the ones that have stayed with you, the ones that you love sort of year round, you know? I think that's really important.
And the ones that got me into or deeper into
very much so.
The subject.
Very much so.
The subject at hand.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody, what makes you fall in love with something? And this is obviously get into a bit of the nature or nurture situation. You know, do I like older movies because I was raised in a house where everybody loves older movies? Maybe, you know, it may be that because I was exposed to them, I fell in love with them. It's also true that you know, I guess I was never afraid of black and white. I was never afraid of captions, you know, subtitles, any of that. So for me, yeah, I'll try anything. And
as you know, not everybody in your age bracket, broadly speaking, your age bracket, is so open-minded.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who say flat out, I will not watch black and white, or my kids won't watch black and white.
Which is just odd. It's just an odd thing to do. But
have they ever seen the Three Stooges? They're all in black and white.
Yeah.
You know.
That's not going to convince a lot of people.
Well.
We'll get it. As we've discussed, my mom and I, not big Stooge fans. Though, you know, so the other day, Night at the Opera was on. And my mom and I were watching it, and Daisy was in the room. And obviously, the Groucho jokes don't play for very little kids, which makes sense because they're verbal. They're more verbal than they are visual.
Right.
Harpo is made for kids because he is pantomiming. You know, everything he's doing is pantomiming. So for a kid, it's very funny. And I think that's also why, like, I always grew up loving him. As I got older, I love Groucho, I love Chico, but growing up, Harpo was the one I went to. And it's funny, but I do also think of that in a similar way. I love Dopey. Of the 7 dwarves, Dopey is my favorite dwarf. Again, I think that he specifically appeals to kids. It's that sweetness, that earnestness, that honesty. I think that's sort of what we get into. Just to go back for a second, because now, as I say, YouTube and Facebook are catching up. One of the first things we talked about just for a minute was it blows my mind that my daughter, who will be 2 in 2-ish weeks, which is insane, she loves Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and the Fab Five. She loves them. Now, I didn't force them upon her. Granted, our house is full of stuff, but I didn't make her watch that. We watch a little bit of everything. Obviously, Disney Junior is on most of the time. But there's other shows on that. It's not like it's just Minnie and Mickey. We've now seen them all.
They have Marvel characters.
They have Marvel.
Original characters.
Bluey, who, as you know, I'm obsessed with Bluey. She has really taken to Minnie and Mickey. And I just think, because we were talking about this, do you remember how old you were when you saw Mickey Mouse and started to fall in love with Mickey Mouse?
I never really fell in love with Mickey Mouse. I fell in love with the whole...
Right, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's...
But Mickey Mouse, I mean, if anything, I fell in love with Donald Duck.
Yes, well.
And one of my favorite pieces, which maybe at some point we'll pull over here, is commemorating the moment at the end of the main titles of Mickey Mouse Club where Donald hits the gong. And every day you never knew what was going to happen when he hit the gong.
Yeah.
What
visual joke?
What gag would befall him?
Yeah.
And so Donald always tickled my funny bone more.
Yeah.
And Mickey's not a funny character.
No, he's the straight man.
Doesn't pretend to be.
Yeah. He's kind of the straight man of the group.
The young hero. The all-American kid.
Yeah. And but I just thinking about that, and then I loved them growing up, and then now my daughter does. How many characters? And this is also why I think we all get angry with Disney when it makes, as a company, stupid decisions, because for so many of us, Disney is a part of our blood. You know,
I had a storybook of Grimm's Fairy Tales. And it turns out it was illustrated by Gustav Tenggren. I didn't know what that meant or who he was then, but they were very European classical style illustrations. Well, he worked for Walt
Mm,
among some in the 1930s during the Depression. Virtually every struggling artist
yeah.
worked for the Walt Disney Studio at one time or another
Yeah.
because he was offering a weekly paycheck,
Yeah.
and it meant you didn't have to wait tables. You know, you could actually make a living doing what you wanted to do.
Mm,
You had to follow the program, and individualism was not encouraged.
yeah.
You had to be part of the team, which is why so many of them left ultimately. But if you see any cartoons or magazine cartoons or illustrated books of that period, chances are they crossed paths with Walt.
Yeah.
Always. Anyway, I had this book of Grimm's Fairy Tales. They must have read it to me 100 times. Started reading on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of one, it ended like at the middle of a page. And I took a crayon and I wrote a Walt Disney production and put a box around it like a movie screen. Talk about brainwashing.
Mm,
So I was brainwashed early.
yeah. Well, no, it's comfort, isn't it? It's again, we've talked about this a little bit. So one of my husband's favorite movies is Jurassic Park, which tracks. A lot of people around his age, they love that film. I did not watch it growing up, not because I didn't want to, but we, in our house, we don't tend to watch movies over again, especially that are new. And so if my dad went to see a movie and I didn't go and see that movie with him, odds were that I wouldn't have seen it. Especially, as I say, when you're younger, something like Jurassic, he wouldn't have taken me to a theater to see Jurassic Park. That wouldn't have made sense. We were too young. But so for him, that movie, as soon as as soon as you hear the music, he's smiling and laughing and happy. And so the very first time I watched it was actually with him some years ago. And I said, the only thing you have to remember, honey, is that I probably will like it. And I did. I like it very much. But I'm never going to have the reaction that you have because you've loved this since you were a kid.
Right.
And it's the same thing for me if I'm watching Laurel and Hardy. Immediately when I see their faces, I'm happy. As soon as I see them come on screen, I'm happy. I'm smiling because they're my childhood. It's what I love. And so I realize when I do show someone else who's never seen them before, you may like it, but you're just never going to have that same reaction of, oh, this is happy. This is comfort. This is good, and that's just how it works,
Mark Hamill did a wonderful piece for Turner Classic Movies about how he fell in love with Laurel and Hardy.
Mm.
And it was the same way I did and others of my generation on television daily. Got a daily dose of Laurel and Hardy. He remembers coming home for lunch from grade school, and watching them and then going back to the afternoon's classes. And he wouldn't dream of missing his daily dose of Laurel and Hardy. And that's why he was so excited to work with Peter Cushing, because Peter Cushing made an early tentative trip to Hollywood in 1940 and wound up with a small part in A Chump at Oxford. And then when he worked with Alec Guinness was famously a Laurel and Hardy fan, as so many British people
good taste.
are. So it's a wonderful piece because it ties things together.
Yeah.
And there are people who thought that Alec Guinness could have played Stan Laurel. There's some
my cough has not gone away yet.
Superficial resemblance.
Yeah. No, as I say, it's just, and that is the magic of filming something, recording something. That is what we talk about. Seeing a show on a stage, whether it's a band or a musical or a play, whatever it is, that is such a special, unique experience. It's never going to be the same. Those same group of people in the audience will never be in that same room again together at the same time. Each performance is its own. It lives in that little capsule, and nothing can replace that. But the fact that you have things that are filmed, that are recorded, the idea that you can go back and look at something, it's I just always say, like, I try to imagine what it must be like to be someone like Warren Beatty, right, who's been working for 70, 60 years, 70, 60, something like that. You can watch yourself grow up. I mean, hell, you're not famous like that. We can watch you grow up.
Yep.
We can see footage of you when you were a teenager on those different shows in New York City. We can see you into your 20s. Once Entertainment Tonight started, we can see you from your 30s. It's crazy. It's crazy to have these things accessible to you, that I can watch my dad, 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. What a wild thing to have access to, I just can't believe it.
And you know how whenever you look at snapshots, as we used to call them,
yeah,
of yourself, just like 5 years ago,
yeah,
you say, "Oh,
I look so different."
Why
yeah.
did I comb my hair like that?
Yeah.
Or did I really like that sweater?
Yeah.
Did I pick that out?
You did. You did pick that out. He has, my dad's colorblind. Some of his choices are questionable at best. James says he ordered your 151 movies book, and it should arrive this week. I'm so glad that you bought that book. I love it. I think it's a really, really good one.
Thank you, sir.
What I love about that book specifically is I think that even so, the very first movie in there, it's American Dreams, right?
Yeah,
Dreams
so.
with a Z. And people always give it shit because they haven't seen it and they just immediately start insulting it. It's a wild movie. It's good, but it's also nuts. And I say, as soon as somebody tells me, "Oh, this is," how could he put that movie in there? You go, that's the point. The whole point of this is it's stuff that you might not watch normally. It's stuff that someone can say to you, "Hey, I tried this and it's wonderful and you should give it a shot." And I say, I just always laugh because people always, it's one of the first things I hear. They open the book, they see it's that, and they go, "Oh, I can't." Listen, you never know what you're going to find.
As to the yet unasked question, how come 151?
It's what they told him to do.
Yeah, my editor said odd numbers are more interesting than even numbers.
The editor said, "Here, do this," and my dad said, "Okay." I feel like Facebook isn't working properly still. I'm not seeing comments from Facebook. Technology, why do you hate us so much? Dear technology, I do not have time for your chaos. You guys watched a documentary last night,
which we can't talk about yet.
Well, it's the new Sylvester Stallone documentary
called Sly.
And I was saying to my mom beforehand, I don't know, and forgive me, I don't know that I care that much about him to watch a documentary about him. And I only say that because I can't think of anything specifically that I feel makes him more special than someone else.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, to be at the level of fame he was at and really has maintained to some degree.
He's still, he's still a star.
He's still hugely famous. You can't write these things. You can't guess these things. You don't know who's going to have the staying power. And as I say, what I say is nothing against him specifically. I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me. But I get that he does for a lot of people.
I remember somebody telling me, we were living in New York, in the early 70s. I remember somebody saying to me, there's a guy who's you're going to hear a lot about. He's going to be a big, big star. I said, what's his name? And the person said, Sylvester Stallone. I said, no one with that name is going to be a movie star.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel like you learned something from it? Do you feel that you...
yeah, I learned a little bit.
Is it worthwhile in that sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you can't say more, but I It's interesting. Jesse, what is your favorite? What was my favorite music growing up? Did you listen to the Isley Brothers? Any thoughts on the passing of Isley brother founder Rudolph Isley? I didn't. So my mom, when I was in the car with my mom, we listened to Broadway. We listened to show tunes. If I was in the car with my dad, we listened to pop hits of the 40s and 50s. And if I was with friends around my own age, it was usually Kiss FM, which was popular music. So I sort of have knowledge of weird chunks. But obviously the Isley Brothers were, incredibly famous and well known. And it's sad when anyone passes, but what a legacy to leave. If you're going to go out with a bang, right? Have it so people will remember you for a very long time. Floyd Norman was interviewed on a live episode of the Maltin podcast. It was a good one. It was. Thank you. Floyd Norman is fantastic.
Floyd is a marvel.
He's fantastic.
He's a marvel.
Every time you get to spend time with him.
Ageless.
Yeah.
Ageless.
Yeah.
And he's one of the very few people still standing who could talk about working at the Disney studio for Walt Disney, not for the company, for Walt Disney.
For Walt.
In the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And God bless him.
They say he's
Facebook is not working.
Yeah, which I gathered, which I don't know why it's not working, but I give up. I've got 3 of 4 operating right now, and I'll take it. When you meet him, you would never in your life know what he did, what he was famous for, his achievements. He's just this really hip guy who looks cool. He looks so damn cool.
He is the definition of cool.
And his wife, Adrienne, is equally badass, I will tell you. She's another one. They're just effortlessly cool. And as a couple, they're so talented and funny. And, I feel very lucky that we get to spend time with them both.
Yes.
And that Floyd, thank goodness, is mentally sharp as can be because his stories.
And by the way, he doesn't look his age at all.
Oh, please. He's got to say 88 or something like that. He's somewhere in his 80s, but he looks about 12. But yeah, anytime you get to be with those kinds of people, it's just amazing. You never take that for granted, or you should never take that for granted. Because what a lucky thing to be able to do. And again, history, the fact that you can spend time with living history.
Yeah.
That's no small feat. He was the first Black animator at Disney, is one of the main reasons a lot of people know who he is.
And he later, with a partner, started an independent animation studio, maintained it for quite a while.
Yeah.
And he's done some funny books in recent years with this, just like spot drawings and sketches to accompany amusing anecdotes about working in the animation world.
Well, this is, it's interesting. It's interesting to me with him. Anytime you hear about Walt Disney as an actual human being, which is to say not the sort of the big stories, the great stories, but just working with him, spending some time with him. He was tough because he expected the best and wanted the best from you. And that, as we know, can sometimes be read wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's how women are called divas and things like that. No, he expected the best because he hired the best people. He hired the best people. And so that's the thing. You would never really hear people say anything negative about that. You don't hear them say, oh, he wanted the best from me. They talk about it like, yeah, it's, no. Again, and having spoken, so lucky, having spoken to so many people over the years who worked with him directly or were related to him, it's just kind of a trip. I just saw Buster Keaton in The Scarecrow.
Well, that's good.
That's a good way to spend your Sunday. Nothing wrong with that.
Those early Buster Keaton silent 2-reel shorts are They're a little slice of heaven.
Yeah.
Is what they are.
Yeah. I just saw, so Suzanne Summers passed away, 86. I had no idea she was 86. I guess it makes sense.
Well, she was
But-
around. She was around for a while.
I know, you just don't, age is so weird, isn't it?
Age is a
Numbers are
weird
so
thing.
weird.
No, I mean, well, first time I or anybody saw her was in
Three's Company?
the George Lucas film.
American
Graffiti.
Graffiti? That came out of me. They say 76? Let me look. I just saw something that said 86. That's why I was shocked by that. It could absolutely be wrong. It actually, 76 sounds much better.
Yeah.
Hang on. Yeah, no, that's, yeah, 76. Why did it say 80? Somebody posted on Facebook it was 86. 76. That sounds more accurate.
Yes.
Thank you. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. This, by the way, guys, check your sources. If I can say anything, and I'll say it loudly and constantly, check your sources. No, so Ben, she's 76. But some people were posting 86 because obviously they read it wrong. But this is why. Check your sources, just in general and in life. Have a source. Make sure you know where it came from. I was raised by a journalist, and that is very important to me, that when I tell someone something, I can then say, and here's where I got it, and here's where I read this, and this is this, whatever. It's not hard to do. Just fact check a little bit.
So the Lone Pine Film Festival just took place this weekend.
Hello, you two. We missed you at the Lone Pine Film Festival. Weather was great and a great screening of Ride Lonesome with discussion with Kirk Ellis before and after the movie. That sounds great.
Yes, it does. Ride Lonesome is one of the Bud Bedecker, Burt Kennedy, Randolph Scott westerns in reverse order of billing.
You really just went past the Randolph Scott.
I know. Randolph Scott.
Randolph Scott. If you don't get the reference, that's okay. But if you do, I love you more. Go
on. We love Lone Pine. We haven't been there in a while.
Long while. I went camping not that long ago in Lone Pine. Camping is fun if you're not me. And you can be out in the sunshine. That was the main problem with camping, is I'm great once the sun sets. I'm okay. But during the day, I have to hide indoors. Yes, New York Comic Con is happening right now. Yeah, I have a ton of our friends are there right now and having an absolute blast, which looks amazing. Kevin says, Leonard, what do you think of the books of Will Friedwald? He has written extensively about jazz and pop singers and co-authored a Looney Tunes book with Jerry Beck. Well,
all true.
In fairness, he's a very dear friend. So we're a little bit biased on that. But
he's a wonderful writer. He's a wonderful writer. And he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
I love his book called Sinatra, The Song Is You.
Yeah. You do love. Yeah, it's one of your favorites.
And he's updated and revised it,
yes.
Added more material. It's a portrait of Frank Sinatra as told by the musicians who worked with him. The musicians, the arrangers, conductors, his colleagues, his musical partners. And it's a great point of view to follow. And I'm just crazy about that book.
He is so deeply passionate. And that passion is contagious. You know, he's so excited to share the information.
Yeah.
And I love that. Have you interviewed the voice of Mulan, Ming-Na Wen? No, I love Ming-Na Wen.
I interviewed her when the movie was new.
Yeah. And we see her every now and then. I adore her. I would love to have her on the show. Hopefully when the actor strike is over, I can chase her again. She works so much, especially now that she's part of the whole Star Wars universe. She's hard to get a hold of, but I absolutely adore her. She's fantastic. Did you ever meet Mark Goddard?
No.
Who played Major Don West on Lost in Space? No. Are you familiar with the play The Flick by Annie Baker?
No.
I'm curious about it. It takes place in a movie lobby.
No.
But that is interesting. That is very interesting. Let me pull up and see what other questions you guys have for us. 1 second. But I'm trying to think. You watched some other things this week. I'm trying to think of. What can you talk about the movie you didn't like that you saw the screening of?
No.
Okay, just kidding. He can't talk about that one. What can you talk about that you've seen?
What can we talk about that I've seen? Well, I just watched an upcoming Blu-ray release, but I can talk about it 'cause it's an older film, of The Desperate Hours, William Wyler's film about a home invasion, starring Humphrey Bogart, Frederick March, and Martha Scott, and a good supporting cast. And I hadn't seen it since I was a kid,
Mm.
and I wondered if it would seem dated, and it didn't. And I wondered if I would be troubled by Bogart's hairpiece, and I wasn't. He had the best hairpieces in the last few years of his life when his hair was thinning.
That's very funny.
And I didn't know, but I just learned that from Catherine Weiler, the filmmaker's daughter, that they originally wanted Spencer Tracy to play the part that Fred March took. But Tracy and Bogart, or their respective agents, couldn't agree on billing. And that's so interesting to me. It's the stated reason why Cary Grant and Irene Dunne didn't work together again. They made two world-class, great romantic comedies and one pretty good one. And really enjoyed working together, but neither one would surrender top billing.
Not interesting. Yeah. So the Alex Film Society, bless them, says, do you have a favorite Bob Hope movie?
Son of Paleface.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Is I think my favorite.
Yeah. Craig says, any inside dope about when Gary Giddens will gift us with volume 3 of his magnificent Bing Crosby opus?
I wish I could say any day now, but Gary wears many hats, and I've not heard a progress report, so I don't know.
We will report later.
Gary and I started out writing jazz reviews for the Village Voice at roughly the same time, and met each other very early on, and we're still friends. We don't get to see each other or talk together very often, being 3,000 miles apart, but he's such a good guy, and he's a brilliant writer, I think. Not only on jazz, but on film too.
Craig says, have you seen Anatomy of a Fall or Killers of the Flower Moon yet? Tomorrow night.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
They're going to see Killers of the Flower Moon.
All night.
Yeah, all 3.5 hours of it. Mommy was on the phone with Ellen this morning, and she was going, we're going to see this movie. It's 3.5 hours long. And I said, well, but Mom, I mean, hopefully it's a Scorsese you've liked, the longer. If someone's going to do a 3.5 hour, he tends to make it count.
Yes.
So fingers crossed, but yeah.
And I want to see Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah. Arthur says, hi, Leonard, was there an updated edition in your wonderful book, The Great Movie Shorts? It's such a well-researched and quite comprehensive book on the one-reeled and two-reeled films, which I think has been overlooked in Hollywood.
Thank you. It's very near and dear to me. And I did one revision in print 35 years ago when I changed the name to Selected Short Subjects. And then I revised it again for Kindle, for Amazon Kindle. And if you buy the ebook version from them or order a copy on demand to be printed, you'll find fuller cast lists for films that I couldn't access at the time I was writing the book.
Favorite Piper Laurie performance? I will forever remember her from Twin Peaks.
Well, Carrie, of course, where she plays Sissy Spacek's mother, is an obvious choice. I'm sorry it's not more original, but she's awfully good. Awfully good.
Yeah. I think, am I right that let me make sure I get this right before I say it. But yeah, I'm sorry. A bunch of people are saying that they had to abandon Facebook to find on another platform, which, by the way, again, is why I use multiple platforms. People ask why we don't try and do it from one place to all 4. That's because when one doesn't work, the other 3 do. And that is why it's incredibly useful to do it that way. Yes, I'm right. So in the faculty, which is a crazy movie, if you recall, from 1998. Piper Laurie.
Robert Rodriguez.
Yep. Robert Rodriguez. She's in that, and she's nuts. Are you going to watch the TV premiere of Once Upon a Studio tonight? Well, we've already seen it, but perhaps, mayhaps, we shall see.
See how they present it.
Yeah.
I've seen it 3 times. It makes me cry every time.
Yeah. Ron says, what films would you recommend for some insight into the situation in the Middle East? There are not any. There are not any, and I will tell you why. Because nothing covers in depth everything that has gone on for this long. I was just saying, check your sources and all the rest of it. Please, please, please. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been posting about this a little bit. You don't know where these graphs come from, where these charts come from, where these numbers come from. So before you share and reshare them and quote things as fact, please try and do a little bit of research. This is a very, very deep, long-running situation, and you cannot treat it lightly and just repost something on a whim, because you could be helping distribute false information, and nobody needs that. Obviously, we're not going to get into it more because it's a mess, but we just hope that everybody, let's just all hope we can get through this thing, shall we? Ben is saying, are there some films from the early 70s that don't get enough exposure or credit?
Lots and lots. You'll find a lot of them in that book, the 151 Best Movies You've Never Seen, because that was a very fertile period. Many people think of it as the silver age of Hollywood. Hollywood in quotes, because a lot of these films were made independently outside of Hollywood, literally, or in New York. I think of a film like Scarecrow, Jerry Schatzberg's Scarecrow, with Al Pacino and Gene Hackman in unlikely parts. They could have almost switched parts, and you would have said, "Oh, that makes sense." But they're both so good in it, and it's got an opening shot that is just a killer. Stationary camera. One of them is coming down a hill, while the other one is waiting at a roadside. Maybe get a pickup from a kindly stranger driving by. What a way to open that movie, boy!
It's what for you guys is sort of an ingrained image. What's something that you can close your eyes and see so clearly from a movie? Because I think when I do that, I picture Oz turning into color. I think that's one of the first visuals that pops into my head if I think of a movie that has that kind of something you can't forget.
Yeah.
When they walk and the whole thing turns to color, and you see Oz and it's so beautiful. That is a big one. I think, comes to my mind.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, because how could it not?
Harold and Maude. Now you're going to start naming some of those great films of the 70s. So many people came of age as filmmakers in that narrow bit of time from 70 to 75, roughly.
Yeah.
Robert Altman, Michael Ritchie, who's very underrated, I think. He made Smile, among many others. Coppola, Lucas. That's when they got their start. Spielberg.
It's really crazy because you can look at pictures from New York around that time.
Brian De Palma.
And you see all of them together.
Yeah.
Like you see first of all, they all look the same. They've all got this shaggy hair and these big beards. And it's like they're all babies and they're all together. Like it's crazy to see a picture of Scorsese with Spielberg, with Lucas. It's like all of them in one room, and you sort of go, what? It's akin to finding out how many people went to Cal Arts here. When you find out that John Lasseter and Brad Bird, Tim Burton, like all those people were there at the same time. It's crazy to think about that. But yeah, New York, if you look, as I say, you can look photos up. It's like there they all are together. Titans, truly Titans, just together in a room.
Chaplin's face at the end of City Lights. Well, there's an image
Oh
that
God, yeah.
is seared in my
Yeah.
consciousness.
Yeah. No, you can't. As I say, we all have. Whenever people ask my dad questions like, "What's your favorite such and such? Who's your favorite?" I always say to him, because he'll pause and I'll say knee jerk, because it's like, what's the very first one that comes to your mind? So if I say to you, "What's your favorite Buster Keaton film?" and I just say, just shout out something.
General.
So that is somewhere in your brain. That's your reality.
Yeah.
That's the one. If I say, "What's your favorite movie?" and you go, blah, that is the one that without thinking, some part of you just knows that's your favorite.
Craig, Payday was revived at the Telluride Film Festival 7 or 8 years ago when the late Rip Torn was still alive and roaring. And I got to interview him in front of the audience in the courthouse.
That's where we found out that he was actually Little Rip.
Yeah, his father was Big Rip.
His father was Big Rip, and he was Little Rip. And he said that, and he wasn't joking. And I was sitting there just like, no kidding. There's a Big Rip out there. He was a character.
He was a character.
But
great actor.
Fun. Oh, so talented.
Yeah.
Fun. Show them your big old hunk of.
Okay. So one of the things about moving to Los Angeles, as Alice and I did almost exactly 40 years ago, was November 2nd, 1983. Is that what we should have been doing from the moment we landed was going to estate and garage sales. But you can't spend your every day doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So every day you're missing something.
Mm-hmm.
And since this is a company town, there are things going to be thrown away, given away, offered for sale that are going to be connected to the movie and television world and radio too. Like this heavy piece, which is made of cast iron, I suspect.
Hefty.
It's really heavy. I'm going to read the inscription. To our friend Sid Grauman, the super showman who has been an inspiration to each of us in striving for the bigger things in our industry. From the boys of the distribution department, famous players, Lasky Corporation, aka Paramount Pictures. They had this beautiful piece made up for him. And it's appropriate to remember him right now because within a month, they're going to reopen the Egyptian Theater, which was his first Hollywood theater. His first LA theater was the $1 Million Theater downtown on Broadway, which is still it's not open for business, but it's still standing. And we recently
it gets used.
It
gets used.
I recently introduced a showing of Vertigo there for the LA Conservancy, but that's where he put his staked his first claim in LA. Then he moved with the progress of population to Hollywood Boulevard and the Egyptian Theater with its forecourt. And that was an intentional idea to create an environment, not just a theater, but an environment. And it opened in 1922. And 5 years later, he built the Chinese Theater, several blocks up the boulevard. And that became his most famous theater operation. And
which is why we will call it Grauman's till the day we die. Regardless of who buys it, we will always call it Grauman's.
And that's why so many of the inscriptions in the sidewalks say to Sid.
To Sid, which we love. We love that. What is this? My heart belongs to Jack.
No, Jack Benny wrote, "My heart belongs to Mary.
My heart belongs to Mary, but my feet belong to Sid." Something like that. It's very funny. I love going there. You know, there are tourist attractions in different places. Some of them are worthwhile and others are not. I really do think that seeing the hand and footprints at Grauman's is so special. There are a lot of people in there now who have absolutely no reason to be there, but the classic ones, the ones that were really special, there's just something wild about that to me, because they stood there.
Yep.
They touched that. They signed that. And you'll also see with a number of folks, they added something in. So like Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, they've got the horseshoes.
Trigger's horseshoes.
They've got the horseshoes there.
John Wayne put a fist.
Yeah. Jimmy Durante put his nose. He's got his schnoz in the side of the, so it's I just think it's worthwhile. Sorry, does the walk with the imprints grow longer every year? Is it many blocks now?
Oh, you're talking about the Walk of Fame, the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah. So different imprint, the hand and footprints, that's just Grauman's. That's just that one place. For the stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame,
they still have vacancies.
Yeah. Well, because they've gone everywhere, because they put them absolutely everywhere. They've gone as far as they can go. So yeah, they keep adding, and they go up the street now. They go over here. They go over. It's quite funny because they're a little bit all over the place. But
it's just Vine Street.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. It's just sort of like you're walking and suddenly you go, oh, hello. Again, some of them are absolutely deserved, and some of them you go, but they're there, and there too. It is something special. I love seeing the one that's the Muppets. The Muppets are right in front of the El Capitan Theater. I love that. Yeah, again, it's history, isn't it? The idea that some people are there, and then of course there are people who have multiple stars. In some cases, it's rare.
Yes,
but there are a handful
with the logos
differentiating.
Yeah,
so you could have one for music and one for film.
I think Gene Autry has 5.
Yeah, it's wild. And then in the valley here,
Studio City Walk of Fame.
They put one together here, which I think is so
Studio
funny.
City earned its name because they lured the comedy pioneer producer Max Sennett out here to what was then called North Hollywood by giving him a sweetheart deal for building a studio, which is still very much in use and is now called, I think, the Radford Center. It has been many things. It has been CBS Studio Center. It's been,
when you were there, it was CBS Radford,
right?
And then it changed again.
And when we first came out here, it was MTM.
Yeah. Mary Tyler Moore. Has Mr. Maltin got a star yet? No, I wish. You have to get, it's like many things, it's money. You have to get a certain number of signatures, and then it costs like some thousands of dollars to do. If you want to have someone do their hand and footprint, it's $100,000. So you have to tell the powers that be that you would like to have them do it. They decide if they agree or not. You get signatures, and then you pay $100,000. So every time someone gets one of those, that's what they're paying.
Well, good reminder, Nick. Sid Grauman is caricatured in Mickey's Gala.
That's
premiere.
right. That's right. Otis Redding will get a posthumous star next year for what would have been his 90th birthday. Yeah, they still do that, which I think honoring people in that way is really beautiful. Again, there's stuff that's silly. You see some people's names and you go, really? But at the same time, it is what it is, and there's only so many. So to be someone who has one is a big deal.
Yep.
It's not nothing to do that. Do you have any interest in seeing The Burial, Dix the Musical, and Naiad? I would love to see Dix the Musical. I am interested in Naiad, though I watched the really good long documentary about her, not that this one, the other one. So I don't really know what there is to expound upon.
Right.
Because that one was so thorough.
I hear the 2 women are great. Annette Bening and Jodie Foster.
Well, of course they are.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Annette Bening and Jodie Foster. It has to be good. Like, truly, it has to be good. Yes, John Barrymore has his profile in Grauman's Chinese theater. Yes, he does. So what qualifies for...
And Betty Grable's leg.
Most importantly. So what qualifies for Walk of Fame versus handprints? It's just 2 completely different things.
One is private, one is semi-public.
A bit more public.
Yeah.
You also, though, to get a star, you have to, if you are the person trying to get a star, you have to write a letter. You have to write a letter to the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce explaining why you would like a star, which I've always found really interesting. I love the idea. It's like trying to get into an internship or a college program or something where you go, I think that I deserve to have a star because I've made a lot of movies. I did this and this and this. When I was younger, it cost $20,000 to do a star. That's how much it used to cost. I have no idea what it's up to now.
Last I heard was 50.
Yeah, I only know that it's 100,000 for. Yes, I said Jimmy Durante's nose. Yes, I only know that it's 100,000 at Grauman's because I've had friends work to pay it for some of the newer hand and footprint ceremonies. And that's the thing, is that you can crowdsource it. You can come up with that money however you like. So yeah, I think it's cool. But
when Alice and I were first out here, we went to a dinner at the now demolished Elks Lodge in Burbank.
Not demolished.
No?
No, the Sportsman's Lodge?
No. Elks Lodge.
Yeah, and I heard you say that, but is it not where that was as well?
No. It was where the AMC theaters.
Oh, okay.
That whole area got built
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
It was a like a countrified dinner, and Sally was in the kitchen making dinner. They were behind, couldn't serve it fast enough.
Very
But
funny.
everyone was there because they're trying to raise $3,000 for a star for Yakima Canutt, the great rodeo cowboy turned stuntman and stunt coordinator, the man who actually directed and staged the chariot race in William Wyler's Ben-Hur,
Yeah.
among other credits, and who, with John Wayne, invented the screen fight or perfected the screen fight in the 1930s. So everyone knew Yak, and we were relatively new out here, and we said, well, we'll support that. And it was a nice evening, very folksy.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody went to Gene Autry for a contribution. He said, why didn't you come to me first? I would have written a check. That's when it was $3,000.
Yeah. That's when it was not quite as intense. Ay. Did you ever meet Stanley Kubrick? And what is your favorite film of his?
I don't know what my favorite film is of his. I admire so many of them. Paths of Glory, Lolita, Dr. Strangelove, 2001, A Space Odyssey. In There Somewhere. In There Somewhere is an answer. And I never got to meet him, and I almost got to interview him. The groundwork was being laid by Warner Brothers here in California because he permitted me to show the first trailer for Full Metal Jacket on Entertainment Tonight. He had to sign off on that. And then when they released the first real trailer, I got to present that. I got credited for it. I didn't have anything to do with it except, introducing it on the air. But I wasn't going to duck credit either.
Right.
Especially if it meant getting to meet Stanley and talk to him. And I did not get to do that. Sorry to say.
I'm going to put these together. Brian is asking what your least favorite Disney animated film is. Ryan is asking what are some of your favorite Disney animated features after Dumbo, Dumbo being your favorite.
My least favorite is The Sword in the Stone. I just watched it again.
And you still really didn't like it?
No, don't care for that film. Just doesn't have it. There's no magic there. And I'm not going to dwell on that. But other favorites, so many. Cinderella, 101 Dalmatians, Bambi, Pinocchio, The Three Caballeros.
Yeah, all those.
And more.
Someone just asked what they should go see in theaters this week. And I'm trying to look and see what is even in theaters this week, because I don't know.
If you haven't seen Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's a really good movie. I mean, really good.
Someone just asked if you're going to see the Taylor Swift concert film.
I don't think so, but not because I'm disinterested.
Just because it's 3 hours. And he's already going to have to spend 3 hours in the theater tomorrow. The Exorcist, Paw Patrol. Go see Paw Patrol. The Creator.
I saw Creator.
Dumb Money. I wanted Dumb Money to be good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is, but I wanted it to be good. It looked fun. A Haunting in Venice,
Mm,
The Equalizer 3, Barbie's still playing, Expendables 4, My Big Fat
mm.
Greek Wedding 3, Oppenheimer's still there, Hocus Pocus 30th anniversary. Let's see. Oh, they're showing stuff like Beetlejuice, which is neat. Yeah, you can go see stuff in a theater if you want to. Strange Way of Life, the Almodovar movie
Which is a
with
short.
Ethan Hawke. Yeah. Stop Making Sense. Oh, they found that interesting. She Came to Me.
Yeah, I watched that.
Okay, and
That's Rebecca Miller's new film.
Yeah.
Which I should have written up for the website.
You
Maybe I
should've.
still will. With Peter Dinklage
mm-hmm.
and
Marissa Tomei,
Marissa Tomei
Anne Hathaway.
and Anne Hathaway. It's a really oddball film.
Did you like it?
Sort of,
Okay.
but it's a very oddball movie.
Okay.
And I like some of Rebecca Miller's work,
Mhm.
but
it was a really oddball movie.
it sure was.
There you go. Yeah, there's not a ton that I'm seeing that I'm that intrigued by at the moment.
A lot of good stuff coming up.
Yeah.
There's the sequel to Chicken Run.
Yeah,
from Aardman Animation.
good.
They're just
We
starting to
love
screen.
Aardman.
Just starting to screen Next Goal Wins. Taika
Yes.
Waititi's new movie.
I want to see that too.
So there are films that I am
Yeah.
ready and eager
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah. And I will say, in terms of Taylor Swift, good for her getting people into the theater. They're selling out
sure.
like crazy. They're making it, we've talked about like when the second Black Panther movie came out and people made it an occasion. When Barbie and Oppenheimer happened just recently, and people were all going to do double features. How exciting is that? How great that people were really excited to go to a theater and go with friends and make an event of it. Go and have dinner and watch these two movies. I think that's great. What a wonderful thing to do. So with Taylor Swift, she's getting people into the theaters. They're having a lot of fun. Great.
I'm not forgetting Wish. I was just naming some films off the top of my head. I'm very much looking forward to Wish.
Yeah. I'm going to go hack elsewhere. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us. We will see you next week.
Happy to see you.
I really hope my computer doesn't decide to play games next week for my sanity's sake. But yeah, everybody take care of yourselves. Please I'm going to say your Be Kind line because there's a lot going on, obviously. Please be kind to each other. Please be thoughtful in what you say and how you say it. Yeah. Be kind to each other. We all really need it. We always do, but more than ever. So take care.
Take care.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.